Joining today's press conference is Mr. Aubrey C. Norton, Member of Parliament, leader of the People's National Congress Reform and the Partnership for National Unity. Ms. Nima Flubet, Member of Parliament, Central Executive Member of the People's National Congress Reform, and Shadow Minister of Youth, Sport and Culture. Mr. Trevon Winchester, Central Executive Member of the People's National Congress Reform, and Ms. Tahiri Adams, Executive Member of the Guyana Youth and Student Movement and Georgetown Main City Council Councillor. Thank you. Today's first statement will be read by the Leader of the Opposition.
APNU will empower the youth of Guyana. APNU will develop a national youth empowerment scheme, yes, with the aim of empowering the youth of Guyana. We believe the youth must not only lead themselves, but be trained to do so. In this regard, the APNU will establish a national youth leadership training program and the development of national youth training centers in all regions of Guyana. The National Youth Empowerment Scheme is aimed at empowering the youth of Guyana. We will empower our national athletes. We will develop a medical insurance scheme for all national athletes regardless of their sport. We intend to bring to an end the existing situation where through injury, many of our athletes are forced out of athletics. In addition, athletes will be guaranteed a livable income and full sponsorship when representing Guyana. Our innovative and talented youths will benefit from the APNU government introduction of intellectual property laws, inclusive of copyright laws to facilitate the monetization of their skills. This has been promised for years by the present government, but they never delivered. The APNU will. Apart from generating employment for our young people, the APNU will initiate a national youth investment fund that young people can access for grants and low-interest loans. This program will be preceded by the training of young people in financial literacy and small business development. To ensure that there is additional income to young people, the APNU will modernize the stock exchange to facilitate young people's involvement and benefit from the stock exchange. We will educate our youth on the stock exchange, its structure, functions, benefits, and how the youths can invest in the stock exchange to improve the quality of their lives. Look for Jack Dew coming with this a few weeks from now. Our youth will benefit from the $400,000 tax threshold that we will implement. The APNU, as part of its YES program, will ensure that the working youth gets a livable income, enjoy monthly cash transfers, and involved in sustainable modern agricultural development. The youth of Guyana are guaranteed that under the YES program, they will have contracts and the accompanying training and financial assistance to become competent contractors. The APNU will produce youth in mining through the allocation of special mining permits to young people and fast-track the permission for them to operate. This will increase the earning of young people significantly. Another one, Jack Deal will seek to steal. The APNU does not see the youth as a problem. We see them as a resource to develop. It is to this end we will develop a program to ensure that the youth as a human resource is developed. Our students in tertiary education and technical and vocational training will receive $50,000 monthly stipend to facilitate the successful completion of their training programs. We will put in place a national social safety network to assist and transform the lives of young people, especially single parents. The APNU will provide local and international scholarships for youths with the aim of exposing them to quality education both online and in person and at reputable tertiary educational institutions. Our young people will benefit from a rent-to-own housing program. The rent-to-own housing program will build houses which our youth will occupy and pay rent until the cost of the house is recovered. Once the cost is recovered, the house becomes the property of the youth and other Guyanese involved in the program. In addition to our rent-to-own housing program, our young people will benefit from rent subsidies, like all other Guyanese, with the sole aim of reducing poverty and giving all Guyanese a high-quality life. Our children are critical to the development of Guyana. To facilitate increased attendance at school, there will be the establishment of a national school transportation network. While at school, our children will receive 2 hot meals as part of the plan to give all Guyanese a high-quality life. It is the APNU intention to end the scandalous and corrupt schemes of this government, which put state resources in the hands of themselves, their families, their friends, and favorites. We will ensure the people of Guyana benefit from our national patrimony. That is what we mean by putting people first and giving Guyanese a high quality of life and putting oil money in their pockets. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'll open the floor for questions on the press statement.
Mr. Norton,
Mr. Chabot?
are you hearing me?
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Go ahead.
Okay, yes, thank you. Mr. Norton, good day. Sir, could you elaborate a bit more about how you envisage modern copyright law will result in monetization?
If you have a situation, the present situation in Guyana is that we have a lot of talents. Young people are producing music, all kinds of things, but there is no law to protect them. And therefore, anybody can take their music, replay it, do as they like, and they wouldn't benefit. If there is copyright laws, then they will have to pay for using it or face the courts. What that will do is incentivize young people to want to be in the creative arts world and to produce music, drama, you name it. And that will allow them to earn and therefore monetize.
Thank you. The floor is still open for questions on the press statement. Mr. Adam Harris.
Morning, all.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, you talk about the development of athletes. Indeed, Guyana has athletic talent, but providing these facilities wouldn't guarantee them the best possible coaching. Do you have a program for coaching these young athletes that you want to develop?
Yes, it will be a comprehensive approach. It's not just coaching. Since this government is in power athletics in the schools have deteriorated. Some schools have no athletics program. Sport in the school would have deteriorated. And so the intention is to reintroduce in a structured way various sports in the school system so that at that very tender age, we see the talent. Part of our policy is that we need to do talent spotting. We identify them and then we train them. Now, to do the training, you need coaches and you need people who are trained in sport education. There are many people around this country that are qualified in sport education, but they are not utilized by the ministry because they do not attach importance to sport. For them, sport is a little by walking around like aimless, taking picture. The real issues to be dealt with aren't dealt with. And so we will focus on coaching. We will focus on training, professional training to coaches so that in the final analysis, we can bring the talent to the fore and ensure that it serves Guyana. If we can do as much as we do without significant government help, without a proper program, imagine if they get significant help and a program, we will succeed.
Thank you. I see the hand of Ms. Ira Wharton.
Mr. Norton, good morning.
Good morning.
This is following up on Dennis's question. What system will you actually be putting in place to measure radio spins and so on?
To measure?
Radio spins and so on in terms of copyright laws. To monetize it, sorry.
No. I don't get a question.
What systems are you going to put in place? You talk about being able to monetize local content, but what systems will actually be put in place?
Okay. Well,
for musicians to make money and so on.
She's talking also, I believe, Mr. Norton, as well as radio airplays of locally produced songs.
Yeah.
Now, first of all, one has to ensure that there's the law in place. There are countries, once that happens, there are rules. And one of the things you can do is insist that radios play and television use a certain amount of local talent. In other words, say 20% of your programming must consist of local talent. And of course, that local talent is paid. And so you start to develop in the society an interest in the local scenario. Then you also have to have good production facilities to ensure that there is quality production coming out of Guyana. And then I saw some fools in the parliament on the other side laughing when I said we will take Rokotoks and seek to develop it because of the lack of understanding of the arts. They wouldn't recognize that Rokotoks is a combination of comfort and kwekwe. And if you can have that developed and utilized, then not only will we have a national genre, but we will also have something that we could sell, and visitors coming can experience something Guyanese rather than it either from Trinidad, Jamaica, or North America. That will also play a critical role. Now, we also believe that as a government, you can help artists by ensuring that they have a livable income like we intend to do with athletes once they arrive at the national level. And so we will put a slew of measures in place to facilitate the development of these artists and them transforming the talents into earnings.
Thank you. I see the hand of Mr. Adam Harris.
Yes, sir. Back to the sports problem. Now, one of the things that we seem to have neglected over the years, and I know of athletes who became injured, the question of sports medicine. I mean, you were talking about a very expansive program that would involve help to help athletes recuperate if they're injured. You would need to talk about dietitians and all of this. Do you envisage such a total package, sir?
I will ask MP Best to start because she was in the forefront of the research and engagement work to arrive at it. So I'll ask her and then I'll comment.
Thank you. Our athletes in Guyana under the APNU government can expect that we will take care of them in all areas. I have known cases where athletes would have been injured and they had to come out to the sport because they couldn't afford the relevant treatment and care that is needed to bring them back into the sport. As such, having insurance to cover injuries, the medical aspect of it, having a program where our athletes' diets are being looked at and taking care of them generally will definitely benefit the athletes here in Guyana. We also look at the issue where athletes would be selected to represent this country and no proper plan is in place to get them ready for the competition for which they have to take part in. We have athletes having to go to work. We have athletes having from work to go and train. That adds to injury because, you know, if you're tired all day and then you have to go train in the afternoon, you have all these issues coming up. So our plan will cover all of that to ensure that all our athletes are covered and protected as they represent this country and their sport discipline.
And the direct answer to your question about sports medicine, yes. We will train people in sports generally, but we will also train them in sports medicine. In fact, I think I've come across at least 2 persons in sports medicine who I was relating to when we were in government. They have the skills, but over the years, the PPP government did not utilize them. The second thing I would say, we have to develop a network of modern gyms to help our young people. We will also address the question of their diet. We cannot continue to have a situation in which you do not pay attention to the diet and they have deficiencies. So we will focus on the diet, and part of us seeking to give them a livable income and sponsoring them will also ensure that there is the kind of support that is necessary. Let me point out this. On my last check, Guyana had scope for the employment of about 300 physical education teachers in the secondary school. I know at the point when we left government, we had already developed the mechanisms to put those persons in the school system. One of the ways we intend to create employment for young people is to have them trained and put in the school system as physical education teachers. Unless you attach importance to physical education and it is seen for what it is, there is at CXC, if I recall, physical education.
Okay.
But yet you have a lot of vacancies for physical education teachers. And so we intend to, apart from developing teachers, generally, we intend to have in place those physical education teachers. And if you are taking a modern approach to development, you will also have to have an education program, not just to educate sports people, on the importance of diet and eating properly, but part of our national medical program will be an educational program to ensure Guyanese understand the importance of eating well. They understand the importance of physical exercises, etc., so that in the final analysis, we can reduce sickness through diet and involvement in physical education and practice.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Norton, I would like to return to the matter of copyright. I would like to know specifically what plans do you envisage with respect to approaching social media giants like Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and similar types of social media platforms with respect to copyright and monetization of Guyanese content?
Well, first of all, once we have the laws, we could then engage them. I've known of cases where people put things on Facebook, etc., and they refuse to carry them because of copyright infringement. And so there exists, I don't want to say a corpus of law, but at least practices that you can utilize to ensure that the laws are applicable and our artists can benefit.
Mhm.
All right. At this stage, I will open the floor for any other questions, but I will start with a question that was sent. 1 second. All right, I have a question here from Mr. Travis Chase. He says, the PPP is already claiming victory at the polls, and he would like to know, do you think it is dangerous for political parties to be claiming victory even before the day of election?
It is probably dangerous, but it is also a clear indication that the PPP wants to rig the elections. And so they're creating an environment as if they will win. I see it differently. I don't see the PPP winning the next election by no stretch of imagination. Even if they hunt down Mohammed, because it is evident that, and I hold no brief for Mohammed, but it is evident that they intend to hang him down. You know, in any country governed by law, Jadno would have been arrested and put before the court. Here you are, as government, allege first, you didn't believe any link to the killing of paper shots. You did everything. You even charged a policeman who said that the CCTV cameras had provided them with some information. You charge him. You hung him down. Now that Mohammed indicates he's going to be running, you turn around and talking about charging him for a murder. It means, therefore, that you at least had information to lead you in a particular direction in which you didn't go.
Mm.
And so if you're going there now, you should be charged for being complicit with murder. But the man is such a dishonest and barefaced piece of it that he thinks Guyana is his own. If a crime is committed and we happy with the person at the time of the allegation, nothing happens. But if we believe that this person is a threat to us, we bring up all the charges. When all the evidence was leaning in the direction of Minister Dharamlal being charged, the PPP stopped it. They will have to wait until we're in government to bring him to justice. And so you're dealing with a regime that is dictatorial and that they are willing to condone crimes if in their mind the person committing the crime is a friend and ally. But the minute you aren't, they are prepared to go after you. You cannot run a country in that fashion. You have to run based on the rule of law. I heard yesterday, or it was reported to me, since I hardly ever listen to the nonsense, but it was reported to me with the extracts that Jack Doe went on to talk about none of us in the APNU have experience to run a country. I wonder where he got the own from when he came from Mahik on a bicycle. Everybody that became president, be it Barnum, Jagan, he himself, Granger, had no previous experience in running a government. And now let's assume that he has experience. Well, his experience didn't serve him well because he has no successful project. He failed and wasted money on Skeldon Sugar Factory. He failed and wasted money on the fiber optic cable. He failed and he wasted money on virtually every project that he touched. We had the indignity of a Secretary of State describing our roads as concussion roads. So his experience and Irfan Ali experience resulted in incompetence. Experience is only useful if it is contributing to competence, to solving the people of Guyana. And he lucky, he didn't carry the Secretary of State over the river because the schooner to Crane Road is worse than the Heroes Highway. This man has no right to talk about competence. He is incompetent. He addresses no issue thoroughly, but sets out to attack people. Well, I say to you, Barra Jack Dale, with all your years in politics, you have proven to be incompetent. The only skill you seem to have at commanding is lying. I turn now to you talking about people taking ideas. You, Barra Jack Dale, criticize me for saying we will do cash transfers. And when you recognize the Guyanese people up for it, you came and own it like if it was yours. You are an intellectual thief. You stole the ideas from the APNU and putting it over as if it is yours. So you are an intellectual thief. You argued against free education at the university. We consistently demanded free education. You didn't say to people that it is your government removed free education. You go on now like if it is you bringing free education. The Guyanese youth must know that from 1976 up until 1994, when the PPP removed free education, Guyanese enjoyed free education from nursery to university. So don't come now as if you are some savior. If you think Skeldon is the biggest white elephant in this country, look in the mirror. You will see the biggest white elephant in that mirror, you, Barra Jack Dale. And I decided to take you on today because you're a pathological liar. I don't want to describe you as a thief. So I will say you take people's ideas and seek to convert them to your own. I think you should just go and try and develop ideas and seek to put out ideas that come from your brain or lack of it.
Thank you. I see the hand of Mr. Antonio Day.
Mr. Norton, pleasant good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
I trust that you are well. My question
Extremely
is, I
well.
know that the PNC has a great track record when it comes to youth development. There are some young people in Linden who are complaining about not being having access to athletic opportunities because I know Ms. Nemo Lupes will raise concerns about young people who participate in curricular games, but they are not getting that opportunity. What plans if the PNCC, like the government, would do to revitalize that vision for young people? And secondly, does the PNCR have any vision of trying to revitalize the Durban Park? Because I know it was birthed under the former administration.
Let us begin by how we got here. The PPP appointed an incompetent little boy named Charles Ramsey. Went into Linden and disrupted every sport facility you had except probably Christianburg. You went to the Mackenzie Sports Club, took down everything, created no alternative. The people are so disrespectful that there is the Mackenzie High School ground. And when Kashif and Shanghai were not likely to get a place to use, they began to do it. And then they stopped so that the ground is not usable. They inherited from us the athletic track in 2020. And in 2025, they cannot complete it. It is that level of incompetence this man calling experience. The man is a complete waste. Now, Linden is left in a situation, not only athletics, virtually no sport can be played for two reasons: the vindictiveness of the PPP and their incompetence. And then they run into Linden distributing contracts and then sending the friends with the equipment so the people who got the contracts got to hire it from them. Lindeners are aware and are going to vote them out of power. I repeat, take their money. It's your money. But throw them out of power for their incompetence, vindictiveness, and discriminatory behavior. Now, as it relates to Durban Park, clearly we will have to fix Durban Park. We are addressing how we do it and how it will be utilized. I noticed the government said they can fix it after the election. I know they can fix it from opposition, but we will see. So I would say, essentially, we are going to develop the sport facilities in Linden, and we have been engaging the young people, and we will have in Linden modern sport facilities that young people can utilize. And let me tell you why I say this government is vindictive and discriminatory. The community that produces the most successful athletes at the national level is Linden. But yet you have the audacity, the temerity, the barefacedness to deprive Linden of sport facilities and then turn around as if you have an interest in Linden. These people are so ridiculous. Let me remind Barry Jackdale and Irfan Ali, who has difficulty pronouncing simple words. When I became opposition leader, we went to Linden and sensitized people to the fact that you, Vice President Jackdale, said that you were not going to do the road between Linden and Mabura to Lete. And we insisted, and with the help of the British, you were compelled to put the road on the agenda and do it. So you didn't do it out of a willingness to improve access to Linden. You did it out of political pressure. The APNU had on the cards the Wisma to Mackenzie Bridge. We had to go and speak to the people in Linden in public and put it on Facebook before you decided that you will do the bridge. Lindeners are well aware of the fact that you have no interest in Linden. You're trying to get their votes. They're going to take your money and they're going to do just what they do in the local government elections. Tell you, go to hell where you belong.
Thank you. 1 second.
Ms. Haynes, permit me if I can ask one last question.
Go ahead.
This is outside of the presser. Mr. Norton, can you confirm, given that Mr. Sheriff Duncan, Director of Finance, which is the Prime Minister candidate for APNU, and the Minister Ricky Ramshaw, since they're no longer with the AFC and they're now on the list of candidacy for APNU, can you say if they will have to subscribe to the policies of the PNCR?
If, first of all, they're not members of the PNCR, they are going to come in under APNU. And if you look at the chart of the APNU, it has the opportunity for organizations and individuals. Now, I do not know how they intend to do it. All I can say, we're going to facilitate them and ensure they enjoy all that all members, whether it's the individual level or the organization level, all members of APNU enjoy. They will enjoy it. May I also point this out to you? I mean, we in the PNC into the petty stupidness, but the AFC has gone to at least 10 of our people, members, and asked them to work with them. Most of them didn't, but at least one on the East Coast did. And we didn't proceed to expel them. They're still in our membership. But pettiness is part of life.
Okay, sir, and can you confirm if Ms. Dawn Hastings is still a member of the PNCR and if Mr. Devin Sears has joined the PNCR? Because there have been a lot of misinformation, so just querying.
I do not, Dawn Hastings is a member of the PNCR at present. As it relates to Devin, I am not aware that he has joined the PNCR.
What Mr. Antonio would have asked just now about next director, etc. Could you say what was the selection process of selecting this director as the PM candidate? And could you also say why she was chosen ahead of Mr. Mike Paul, who's a stalwart of the party and had said last week that he possessed all the qualities that you were looking for in a PM candidate?
No. I spoke with all the persons in the APNU, representatives, and we generally agreed that we needed Director of Finance as the prime ministerial candidate. She has the intellect. She is a woman. She is from the indigenous community and in contact with the indigenous community. And we believe she's qualified to be prime minister. I wouldn't pit her against Ganesh Mike Paul because Ganesh himself was involved in these discussions and agreed that Juret is a good choice. In these elections, we intend to have three main phases of the campaign. Myself as leader, Juret of Finance as prime minister, and Ganesh Mike Paul as key senior, possible vice president in the next government. Now, you would agree that Guyana needs, or the leadership needs to reflect the society. I believe Ganesh is as qualified as Juret, and Juret is as qualified as Ganesh. But you have to make decisions. And when you make decisions, you look at all the factors. And having looked at the factors, you create the combination. And it's for that reason the combination is being created. Ganesh has been a long-standing member of this party in opposition and in government. And like any member, he is entitled to any position. But he is also a political person who understands politics and will do what is necessary to ensure we get the best combination to go into the elections. And so that is where we are.
Okay, And you just mentioned that the APNU facilitates individuals who are not members. But persons within the PNC had criticized former MP Gita for not doing the honorable thing and resigning before announcing her support for the PPP. Would you say that the same criticism applies to Ms. Fernandez, who crossed over to the APNU without informing her party?
Well, you're mixing up chalk and cheese. Geeta Chandan was a sitting member of the APNU AFC coalition. She did not move from the APNU to the AFC. She moved to the government, which is our major opponent. And therefore, the two things are not comparable. Mind you, while all of this is happening, we have left the door open to coalition. We see the coming of Joretta, Ricky, and Sherrod as a case of people who are interested in coalition and coming to join us to ensure that the coalition reflects the APNU AFC. That is not to say we have closed the door on the AFC. I want to make it very clear. I saw in some sections of the press, they were suggesting that we close the door in response to the offer they made to us, asking us to allow them to identify the prime ministerial candidate. We made the point that we were engaged and waiting for long, and we were getting nowhere. And so the APNU engaged them, and they agreed to come. As chairman of the APNU, I made an offer to her as prime minister. She accepted. The day after, the AFC sent a new proposal. And with the person that were engaging us, I told that person that they can say to the AFC, we are willing to continue discussions, but we have committed to making Joretta Fernandez the prime ministerial candidate. And if Joretta wants to give the opportunity for the AFC to select the candidate, we have no problem with that. But we also said we will not give her a word and then renege it to satisfy a late request when we have been negotiating for months with some impossible suggestions, like we should take 35% and the AFC should get 65%. Were I to do that, I would agree if the PNC chased me. And so we are very clear in our approach.
And going back to what happened on Wednesday, are you concerned about the fact that Mark Archer, Ronald Vulcan, and Randolph Critchlow, all Granger government functionaries and prominent PNCR members, are now all in Amanda Walton's camp?
All I would say to you, we have been in government and opposition for close to 5 years. Ronald Vulcan is somebody I respect, and therefore I respect his decision. He has to decide what he wants to do. I will maintain a cordial relationship with him. The PNC, I think, will remain in cordial relations. I have not seen Mark Archer do anything around the PNC since I am leader. As it relates to Amanda Walton, I made that clear in a press statement. And I am not concerned. Critchlow, as far as I am aware, has not done anything inside the PNC for the longest while. And even if they did, and they felt they should go their way for whatever reason, Look, we could only got one presidential candidate and one prime ministerial candidate. And if people can't live with that, so be it.
So no follow-up, there is wrong there. Sir, is the Director of Finance candidacy for the Prime Ministerial position cast in stone?
I just answered that question. So I think you have the level of intelligence to.
I know, but I wanted to hear categorically from you on that point of question.
How could I say it is cast in stone? When I just said to you, and you know I respect you as one of the students I taught with a brain. How could it be cast in stone if I just said to you that we said, if Joretta is prepared to do it, then it is all right and we will facilitate. But we will not dishonor our word that we give to Joretta. You will have to conclude whether it is cast in stone, because there are two options, and I have never seen the case where it is cast in stone and there are options.
And are there plans for additional talks with the AFC, even at this late stage?
Well, I saw today's headline in which the AFC says, assuming the headline is correct, that there will be no further negotiations. But like I've always said, we leave the door open. I've been around politics long enough to know in a few minutes or seconds, there can be changes to the political dynamics.
Mr. Norton, the APNU AFC coalition was badly burned by the no confidence vote of Mr. Charles Pusol, who at that time was the member of the AFC. What due diligence have you done on the candidacies or the persons who are coming from the AFC to avoid such a repetition in future?
We are clear in our minds that the people we are talking with and about are people who have shown a commitment to coalition. We are well aware of what happened with Charandas. Personally, I did my analysis of the situation, and we will take measures to ensure that it doesn't repeat itself. But you live in a real world. You live in a world in which some people could be bribed. I'm not saying Charandas was bribed, but people could be bribed. What we do is try to find persons who we believe are interested in service more than money. That is one of the safeguards. But we're dealing with human beings. I have confidence in those persons that would have come to be involved with the APNU, that they will serve the APNU and they will not be attracted by filthy lucre.
All right, 1 second. I've had a question here pending from Ms. Williams Cantornos that I will read on her behalf. Mr. Norton, do you believe that citizens should have the chance to vote for at least a 25% royalty from Guyana's oil on the ballot come September 1st?
Guyanese citizens have the right to vote for anything they want. I believe many issues are on the ballot. Adriana Young is on the ballot. The murder of those boys in Linden on the ballot. The level of incompetence and corruption on the ballot. And if people want to put 25% royalty, feel free to put it. But this is what I will say to you. We have said numerous times, we will engage ExxonMobil with the aim of ensuring we get more from the deal, and we will do just that.
All right. I have 2 other persons that have been waiting for more than about 10 minutes to ask questions. I'll take Mr. Adam Harris and then I'll take, I think this is Mr. Sugar, so I can take you and then Mr. Sugar. So Mr. Adam Harris.
Sir, you talked about the party preparing its list of candidates for the elections. And the AFC had indicated that it had also prepared its list. Now, is there a law about one person being on two lists? Because when those lists were prepared, I don't know that you had misfinance on it. And I would want to believe that the AFC had misfinance on theirs. So, could you say what has happened there?
Nothing has happened. When you prepare a list, people will come and sign the list. I am not aware that any one of them would have signed the AFC list. Now, we are aware that we have engaged them and they've undertaken to be on the APNU list. The law does not permit for you to be on two political parties' lists at the same time.
All right. Guyana Publication, and then Ms. Williams.
Good afternoon. Oh, sorry. Good morning, everybody. This is Khadija from South News. This is a question directly related to the press statement. It's either for MP Fulbest or Leader Norton. Specifically relating to the cultural development aspect of the statement, President Ali last year had said that the cultural policy document would have been brought to public consultation within the first quarter of the year. As we are currently in the second quarter of the year and a few days before elections, what comments do you have, Mr. Norton, as it relates, or MP Fulbest, as it relates to where this process is so far, and what measures would you take going forward to ensuring that this very vital and important document will be brought to the fore?
Okay, let me say, as far as I'm aware, when we left government in 2020, there was already a cultural policy document. The second thing I would say is that we, as the APNU, have developed a cultural policy. The work was led by MP Fulbest. Now, it is not abnormal for this incompetent government, be it Jack Dale or Irfan Ali, to promise things and don't deliver. They do it all the time. When I was a member of parliament in the 2001-2006 parliament, the present health minister was Minister of Youth, Sport and Culture. And in response to my question about copyright, they said it would have come before the end of that term. That is 19 years ago. None has come. I do not expect to get a policy document from the PPP. They produce none on youth. They produce none on the economy. They produce none on women. They produce none on culture. The PPP operates as a disorganized body when it comes to policy. Let us not forget that the president told a journalist he doesn't have a plan, he just makes the plan as he goes along. That is the level of incompetence and ridiculousness. We have drafted our cultural policy, we have drafted our sports policy, we have drafted our foreign policy. There has not been in this parliament the presentation of one document on foreign policy. Go back the history of this parliament. At least on one occasion, a proper minister of foreign affairs will present a foreign policy document. There has been none. This government has no interest in policy. They have interest in themselves, the family, the friend and favorite, thieving and robbing this country of our resources. That is their interest. And then when they're done, they believe they can cover it up through propaganda. They believe everybody's stupid, like Jack Dale said.
Right, Miss Williams.
Coming back to the door still being open for a coalition, but Mr. North, you already gave Joetta your word on her being PM candidate, and APNU is already listed you as a presidential candidate. Do you believe that the AFC's opinion on positions don't matter? Given that they're dissatisfied with them not having a say on certain things.
Well, everybody's opinion matters, but you're dealing in a process. And in process, you have timelines. And if you don't meet the timelines, don't forget, this is the shortest period a political party ever got for the announcement of an election. And even the work plan. Your claims and objectives have been short, objections have been short, everything has been short. And so you weren't dealing with a situation where you have the world at time. We were preparing before. We wanted to be able to have T-shirts, etc., with both APNU and AFC. We had to go ahead and begin to print and bring in, because to wait longer would have generated problems. And still there are some problems. And so we have had to make decisions. We are always willing to accommodate the views of others in the negotiations, and many times we accommodated the views of the AFC. But every time we produce, and I put the records out there, every time we produce proposals, even if it included some of the proposals that they made, what happens is by the next time it is changed. So we had to act, and we acted.
Being the dominant party, do you think
I didn't hear that.
with the APNU being the dominant party, do you think that the AFC was trying to strong arm its way?
Ask the AFC.
Thank you.
That's good.
Hold one sec, Mr. Sherrod.
Sure.
Ms. Williams, your hand is up, and I'll take my final question from Mr. Sherrod. Or sorry, Antonio D after Mr. Sherrod. Ms. Williams.
Good morning, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Good morning, and asking on Treasury News. Mr. Norton, the financials for the ExxonMobil consortium, showed that they waffled with $10.4 billion in profits for 2024, while in contrast, Ghana only got $2.6 billion. Taking into consideration that it's supposed to be a 50-50 profit sharing agreement between the two parties, can you tell us the PNC's position on this? How does the party view the vast contrast between the amounts of monies each party got?
I don't get an internal consistency in the question, but let me see if I understand. You're saying the ExxonMobil got 10.4 billion in profits. Have you included in those the recouping of the money ExxonMobil invested?
No, this 10.4 billion is just profits for Exxon, Hess, and CNOC.
Now, if I understand the deal, is that Exxon will recoup its money, and the profits that are left are divided we will get 12.5 of it. They will get 25 because it's 25%. As I understand it, That is what it should be. I don't know how you would have arrived at this 10.4 figure, but what I can say to you is that between government, we will engage Exxon and ensure we get the profits we are entitled to. We also want to increase our income. We will do that. We will train capable, we are already engaging in the diaspora, capable and competent people and home here in Ghana who can help us audit and monitor as far as is practically possible what is happening in the Exxon Mobil so that we can get what we are supposed to obtain.
Thank you. Mr. Sherrod.
Mr. Norton, undoubtedly the decisions by Mr. Duncan et al. Did not happen overnight. Surely they must have been talked. In fact, sections of the media, including myself, had heard of their intent some time ago. So my question to you, sir, is how convinced are you that they will not do the same in the future? And what do you make of this kind of backdoor dealing where the members of the AFC, they're trying to now to get in, well, they have now decided to get into the APNU. How do you measure that in terms of sincerity to an organization and commitment?
Okay, it is sincerity to coalition. Long before the present leadership of the AFC, I'd engaged the previous leadership, suggesting to them, or at least one of them, that I believe, based on the present dynamics of Guyana, Director Finance will make a good prime ministerial candidate. So it is true that before we had discussions on it, we, however, never said she will be the candidate. The second thing is this. I believe they are with us more because they are committed to coalition and they weren't seeing coalition emerging. And so in an attempt to ensure that we have a coalition, they decided that they are supporters of coalition and they wanted to be with the APNU, who are not only the initiators, but continue to act consistently in the interest of coalition. I have heard many criticisms, but I can say this to you, since I am leader, I met Cameron Ramjitan as the AFC leader in Parliament. Virtually everything I did in consultation with him because of our commitment to coalition. I believe that the three people you are talking about are committed to coalition. If you had listened to Sherrod on all of his programs, he was begging and pleading for coalition. That is what he wanted. If you speak with Ricky, Geretta, they all wanted coalition. Of course, in any movement, there are always those who want something and those who don't want. And so I am confident that they are in support of coalition and the APNU coalition will move forward with them as we widen our base.
Thank you. Mr. Antonio Lee.
All right, I have a question directed to Ms. Nima Flupes. Given Charles Ramsden has taken on the task to develop many sports grounds across country in the midst of there being a labor shortage, how does the APNU AFC government intend to address this issue? And secondly, we see that the government is making a big thing about completing hospitals, but yet the state, the Anderson Sports Hall is not completed. Those are my last questions.
As the APNU government, when it comes to the development of our sports ground, one of the things that this current administration failed to do is actually engage the people who are on the ground, who've been taking care of these said grounds in their community and have the skills and the knowledge needed to develop the grounds. We will be engaging our community representatives so that they can play their part in ensuring that these grounds are completed and completed in a proper way. I always ask the question, why is it that we have GDF ground always well kept, Evelary ground well kept, border ground well kept? What is so different that the government cannot use the resources or the knowledge needed to ensure that all our communities' grounds are kept in that manner? We will ensure that we engage the relevant persons with the skills and the knowledge to ensure that all our grounds are kept in a manner that is safe and protective for the young people and the children in our community, that they can play. That is something that is very, very important when it comes to health and the development of sports.
I want to pay a special compliment to Nima, because from the time she took over sport, youth sport and culture, she has been on the ground doing the work and developed clear policies. Remember, very early I asked all members of parliament on our side to develop policies and programs for the area. Nima did. But the issue of grounds is also a manifestation of the government's desire to dominate and control. Because they desire to dominate and control, they can't have community involvement. And then, because they want to use it as political patronage, take Buxton. They pull out the people who they believe support them politically and give them the money to do the ground. And then they didn't have the requisite skills. But they were satisfied once they put them in charge of the ground, their people are in control. So they are not pursuing the interests of athletes. They're not pursuing the development of sport. They are pursuing domination and control. Now, let's come to completing hospitals. Look, it is very clear that the government needs big projects so that the corruption could continue to flow. They will develop hospitals, but they would not do the work to ensure the necessary equipment. They will not do the work to ensure that there are the doctors and the nurses there, because their aim is corruption. They want money in their pockets, in their family, friends, and favorite pockets. So it is not about the development of the medical system. Were it about the development of the medical system and ensuring the people have access to quality health, they would have put more resources into training, retaining nurses, first of all, because these people pay nurses next to nothing. And now you've seen online that they're inviting people from India, and this is not a race issue. This is disrespect for the local workers. You're inviting people from India, offering them a higher salary than you offering our nurses here. And so what in fact you're doing is forcing our nurses to migrate. The interest is not in the development of a health system, or else it would have been more structured. The resources would have been available. The government does nothing about the people they have in the system who take drugs and sell it to private institutions, pharmacies that are close to the PPP. And then when the people go, they have no drugs to get. In a country in which the Constitution says health services must be free. So let us not confuse these things. The building of the hospitals is not part of a health development plan. It is a mechanism to put money in the hands of the corrupt PPP. On the other hand, we have studied the health sector, and we have produced clear policies, and we will have an approach that seeks to first increase the human resource capabilities of the health sector, ensure based on the studies, we ensure we have the equipment and mechanisms for the maintenance of those equipment in the health sector. Like I said before, and I expect them to now come and say it, we will have a complete health education program to educate Guyanese generally on health, so that they can do the things that will make them healthy and ensure we have a better society. They have no interest in preventative health measures. Their sole interest is in buildings that will cost billions, half of which will go into their pockets, and half of it will go to whatever building, which will become white elephants, because people will go to the hospitals without the requisite human and other resources to ensure they get the best of treatment. I was in Essequibo, and we engaged people at the hospital there, and they told us that there is a lab and some other things there that were there since the APNU, and this government refused to commission them and utilize them. That is the nature of the government we're talking about.
Thank you. At this time, I wish to thank our media personnel for joining today's presser. I hope that you do enjoy the rest of the weekend, but do bear in mind that on Sunday, Guyana will lay to rest our daughter, Miss Adriana Young, on Sunday the 22nd, and we continue to call for justice for Adriana Young. Do have a great afternoon.